they're trying to take down Susan Sarandon. Either that or Susan Sarandon said some stupid shit and somebody said something back. But listen, I like 3 different Susan Sarandon movies. I like Light Sleeper, I like Bull Durham, and number one, my number one is the Rocky Horror Picture Show. But the Rocky Horror Picture Show, as good as it is, does not place Susan Sarandon above criticism. However, there's this edgelord named the Cavernacle who seems to believe that it does place her above criticism, although really this video is about anti-electoralism, and it really pisses me off. I don't find anything about this guy amusing, so I didn't really write any jokes for this, but if you stick around, at the end of this video, I have a joke about Kanye West that is so hilarious, nobody likes it except for me. So, this is the Cavernacle.
The Liberals are not okay, and I don't think they've been okay since Donald Trump won the 2016 election, because it seems to have broken so many of their brains.
Damn Skippy. I'm assuming by liberals he means anybody remotely anti-fascist, anybody who's against refugee kids being taken away from their parents and then sold back to them, or refugees being criminalized, or trans people being criminalized, or gay people being criminalized, or protesting being criminalized, or Muslims being banned from entering the country, or the EPA being gutted, or a record number of federal judicial positions appointed. All of those judges chosen by the Heritage Foundation. Or how about an increase in civilian death by drone strikes? An increase of 300%. That's enough to break one's brain. You know what breaks a person's brain? Working slave wages and having health insurance that's so bad it doesn't even cover broken brains.
But like in a lot of Western politics, whenever something bad happens, it's not the fault of the Liberals in power. It's not the fault of the bad right-wing people who do those bad things. It's actually the left's fault. It's always the left's fault.
Well, you don't really have to worry about that, because you don't believe in voting to keep Republicans out of power. If you can't show up like a few days out of the year to keep a fascist from taking power, to take the time just to vote against something, you're not really anti-fascist, you know? And if you're not really anti-fascist, you're not really part of the left. Now, you can cry about it all you want to, but if voting didn't change anything, they wouldn't make it illegal. I always think back every election, I think of what George W. Bush said post 9/11. He said, if you're not with us, you're against us. And I've always agreed with that, in a sense. If you're not against Republicans, then you're with them.
And this is embodied in US political discourse by Susan Sarandon derangement syndrome, in that apparently...
Susan, it's all these derangement syndromes. All started with Bush derangement syndrome. And then it became Trump derangement syndrome. Then Jimmy Dore derangement syndrome. Now Susan Sarandon. You ever notice that every time that the left always gets diagnosed with these derangement syndromes, right around the time our opponents run out of arguments? I guess pretty soon I'm going to have Cavernacle derangement syndrome.
When anything bad happens in US politics, done by either Donald Trump or done by Republicans during a time when the Democrats control the White House, the Senate, and Congress.
Well, I noticed you didn't mention the judicial branch. That's convenient. Yeah, Democrats don't control the Senate. If they did, they would have passed Build Back Better. They would have extended child tax credits, which helps alleviate child poverty. They would have passed voting rights legislation. They would have codified Roe v. Wade. They would have passed a $15 minimum wage. They tried to do those things, and then consistently, it's the same two people who block it. Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin aren't Democrats simply because they call themselves Democrats. Their only qualifications for being Democrats are the fact that they think that the earth is round. They vote along Republican lines because that's where the power is. The right. The right has always had the power since FDR died. I don't know where you got this idea of this liberal power that exists, but I'd really like to see the history book that you didn't read, where you didn't get that from.
It is actually Susan Sarandon's fault. Now, why is it Susan Sarandon's fault? Pretty much for one reason. She didn't vote for Hillary Clinton in New York in 2016, which Hillary Clinton won easily anyway. But apparently...
That's what I mean. What an edge. That's what I mean. This dude's just so trying to be edgy. Yeah, are you referring to Susan Sarandon, the bus driver? Because I thought the conversation we were having was about Susan Sarandon, the movie star. Do you honestly think that people are annoyed by her because she voted? No one gives a shit. It's her advocacy, dude. It's the words that came out of her mouth at a very crucial time. Celebrity has influence. Joe Rogan has influence. Are you not aware of that? If it wasn't for Oprah Winfrey, Barack Obama never would have been president of the United States. So when Susan Sarandon gets on television and says, hey, who cares? If Donald Trump wins, we're going to have a leftist revolution. Young people who aren't old enough to remember 20 years ago are going to believe her. Even though she knows she's full of shit. But she said it anyways.
Apparently because Susan Sarandon voted for Jill Stein and the Green Party, everything bad Republicans do is actually her fault and she's happy about, even when liberals have all the power. We actually have a very similar thing here in the UK. It's probably Jeremy Corbyn deranged.
Yeah, I don't really care what's going on over there. I am not a fan of Downtown Abbey. 20 years ago, Ralph Nader ran for president, did not run as a Democrat, because why would he? No. He ran as a Green Party, member of the Green Party. He promised not to run in the crucial states of Florida and New Hampshire, where the Green Party managed to pull enough votes to have actually been a deciding factor in those states. Now, I voted for Ralph Nader, and the reason I voted for Ralph Nader is because Jello Biafra told me to. I used to listen to a lot of bad advice back then. I was a child. What the left at large realized after seeing the amount of votes that they got in those states is that they could actually decide elections if they were coordinated well enough. Bernie Sanders understands that strategy. AOC understands that strategy. The Squad understands that strategy. Most people on the left understand that the people in power only respond to power. That's it. They don't give a shit if you didn't show up. They'll just try to find their votes elsewhere, and you're not going to like the place. You're not going to like the things that they do or the places that they go to get those votes. In 2004, John Kerry ran, and most of the people that supported Ralph Nader backed off. I remember Michael Moore went on television and literally got on his knees and begged Ralph Nader not to run. And there was a petition that was signed by a large group of leftists and given to Ralph Nader, demanding that he not run. He ran anyways because he just doesn't give a shit. In the end, ultimately, he just doesn't really care that much. It's off. It just became about him at that point. But you know whose name was on that petition? I'll give you 1,000 guesses. It would be Susan Sarandon, the banger sister herself. So when she said that a Trump win would incite a leftist revolution, that was her selling out. There are no revolutions in an authoritarian government. That's kind of common sense, dude. You remember the guy standing in front of the tank in Tiananmen Square? Go ask him if you can find him. There are no revolutions under authoritarian rule. There are revolutions under a representative democracy, under neoliberalism. That's where you get the power. That's where you're allowed to build coalitions. Anyways, you know what I like best about Kanye West? Is his fashion sense. You know, his fashion design is like 20 years ahead of its time when you think about it. Because you ever like look back on like pictures of yourself from 20 years ago and think, oh my God, I can't believe I'm wearing that. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Well, his stuff is like that now.